Your slumber is interrupted by a call for a quest from your patron. He needs you to go over to a small village to cure its lord, who's been infected with a strange disease. So you hop on your horseless carriage, because I don't know how to draw animals, and go. It's night, and after crossing a bridge you notice that the road has been blocked by a trunk. You must get out of your carriage and continue the journey on foot. This is the first main scene of our game, and in this video we will go over everything I've made for it. Let's start with our character, the old man we talked about last video. At first I needed a sprite, so I opened a sprite and I started doodling. I was looking for an old and apparently harmless look, and while I was drawing I noticed a resemblance to the tarot card number 9, the Hermit. The card depicts an old man with a stick and a lantern who's going in the search for something. The meaning of the card is introspection and crisis, and the subject of the card will use his lantern to dwell in darkness, find what he's searching for and understanding it on a deeper level to be able afterward to bring that insight with him on his journey. The meaning, after twisting it in a more obscure form, is perfect for the theme of our character. He goes deep into the emotions of his opponents to find the truth of what they are hiding, and bring it to the surface to break them by making them face it. So there we have it. I went for a resolution of 16 by 16 pixels, so I couldn't go too deep on the details, but I'm quite satisfied. In the game, he will be able to move in 4 directions, so I needed to make all the different angles for the animation to work. After that, I decided to make another sprite to alternate with the other one, by just making the original sprite a pixel shorter and adjusting it a bit. This way, we have our small animation of our character bouncing up and down. This brings us to the movement part. For writing our script movement, I had 2 main goals. Firstly, the old man had to move from a tile to another, like the old RPGs, without stopping in between. Secondly, the old man needed a way to detect the uncrossable tiles around him to block his movement for those directions. For the first part, we had to define the size of a single tile of our game, which is 16 by 16. Then, we made a movement function. Inside of it, we specified the starting position of our character, so with the next command, we would be able to make him move. Using this if, we prevent the overlapping of more movement commands. The last part uses twins and their properties to move our sprite and control how fast the command gets executed. Notice that the direction in which our character moves is not defined in this function, so we needed to make another one that also focused on our second goal of implementing the collisions. To implement them, we had to attach 4 different Raycast 2D nodes to our main character 2D node, one for each direction. Those are basically arrows that we position right outside our character tile that will detect collisions from other tiles. With that done, we can go back to the second function. We call this function physics process. Basically, it executes the main prompt repeated 4 times for each direction. First, it checks if the twin is already working, so that we can't give more input at once. Then it checks which key we pressed to determine which if branch needs to load, and it also checks if the Raycast 2D arrow is not colliding with anything. If these requirements are checked, we use the function move from before, putting inside the parentheses of the vector the x and y values that define the direction. Before the move function, we also have another if that works like a switch that changes the sprite of our character every other time to make the animation going. After all this work, I went to test it, and I found out our character was getting stuck on trees and I couldn't understand why. I started trying everything. I tried to get rid of those nodes, to change the collisions on the trees, to delete lines of code and change small values, but nothing worked. Like a desperate man, I went to check online. I watched some videos on collisions, on Raycast and on different ways to program movement, but nothing helped with my problem. I was almost ready to delete everything and start from scratch when I tried to stick myself in a tree once again. And there it was. When our old man was trapped in that limbo, gasping for air, only the upper arrow was signaling the collision in red. So theoretically our character could have moved in the other directions. So I went back to the code and I saw it. Up, 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 up. All the lines of the function were checking the same arrow. At this point I almost had a mental breakdown. I'm not joking. Hours were wasted on this mistake. But in the end, programming, as an old friend of mine says, is just wasting time figuring out the minuscule errors you made when you were distracted. At the end, even if I had to go back to therapy, I was victorious, and I took a break looking at our old dude roaming around, chilling in its prison made of zeros and ones. But the video doesn't end here, because now we will talk about this prison I'm referring to. To design the look of this scene, I went back to a sprite and I made two different files, one for the ground and one for the obstacles of the map. I had to make different attempts at making all the tiles match, because this was the first time for me making tile sets. I didn't want to draw the entire map, because that would have cost me too much time, and at the same time I wanted to try something new that would have been useful also in the future. To make one layer show over the other, I changed the z-index of the obstacles, so that they would be shown on top of the ground. So there we have it. I learned afterwards that Godot allows you to specify the types of tiles you have in a single node by defining which was terrain and which was objects, but it was too late for me. In retrospect, it would have helped me a lot, because right when I finished all the work, I noticed that the position of the tile nodes were not centered. That meant that our character was walking perfectly for the ground tiles, but all the collisions for the obstacles were mismatched. This time nothing could have been done if not repositioning the nodes and adjusting all the sprites. At least now I learned to check before painting the tiles. Our main scene is almost complete. We can move around and not lose ourselves miserably between trees on our map. The next step is to make the encounter with the thief of the last devlog and add a bit of overlays for dialogues and settings. If you enjoyed the video and want to see how these things will be made, and also how many more mental breakdowns I will have, remember to subscribe to the channel. If you made it this far, please leave a like and check out the links for my socials in the description. Thank you so much for the attention and see you later.